Hello, everybody. Michael Falato again. Another episode of Full Throttle Leaders. I'm your host, Michael Falato. Obviously, I'm part of Full Throttle Falato Leads, my company. You can see behind me, and we do lead generation, automation, podcasts, and roundtables. And the reason why we got Steve on the show today is that he's been. How long you been in over at TD SYNNEX?
Gosh, Michael, I've been at TD SYNNEX longer than anything else, including being married and not including being alive. So I've been with TD SYNNEX for 35 years. I'm
Wow.
badge number 74, and I think we're somewhere around 22,000 employees. So it's been a long and great journey. And hey, before I
Wow.
do anything else, I should thank you for having me as a guest on here. I really appreciate it. Love your stuff, by the way.
Thank you, my friend. Where did you start out as at TD, and where are you now?
Okay, so this was my first ever sales job. I started out as a junior inside sales rep and I've progressed up through the ranks. Have done many things, always in sales, and so I think I found my jam. My last official sales job was the executive vice president of sales. Through that time, I've led um, countless mergers. I was the biggest one being the sales IMO lead between Tech Data and SYNNEX. And so I ended up as the EVP of sales and managed about 30 billion of the number, give or take. And since then, I've ceded my responsibilities. I've taken on new things and new roles and new exciting perspectives within the company.
Hmm. And what's the biggest thing you've learned in the last 20 years of something that was really exciting and good, or a lesson learned, hey, I should never have done that?
You know, the lesson I learned is, well, the first lesson I learned is that I love sales because I love people. And the lesson I learned is never to stop learning.
Hmm.
So the thing I think is exciting, especially in our industry, is I think it's the greatest wildcat field ever because there's always a wildcat coming up. You constantly have to learn and reinvent yourself, especially in sales. And then now we're going through with AI and sort of how the sales journey is changing. I'm still learning. So that's what I've learned is never to stop.
But let's get specific, Steve.
Sure.
Let's say I learned something like, hey, I should maybe have gone that route or this route in as a tech decision because it put me behind 6 months. Or I made a great decision. Like for me, okay, I didn't believe in podcasts like this. I'm like, I
Mhm.
could do roundtables. I hit 40 people at a time. But what I felt like, and even though you came to a couple of the roundtables, it's much more one to one and personal doing a podcast one on one. And that's how I build a relationship to possibly do business with that person in the future. So
Yeah.
I basically learned that podcast, even though it's one to one, it's not as high velocity. The quality of the relationship and being able to use that and repurpose that on LinkedIn and YouTube is way different and sometimes better than just doing a roundtable. So that's
No,
kind of
that's
what
a
I'm
great
looking for.
first thing I should say is I love your podcasts. They're really interesting. I really enjoyed. Thank you for the invite. So I really got a chance to see that in action. Um, so that's a plug for you because I'm a sales guy to sales guy helping you out here.
Thank you.
Um, okay, I'll give you one. So you spoke about LinkedIn, and for those of you that have noticed and follow me, I've got 10,000, over 10,000 followers now. And that is over the course of the last 4 years, because
Mhm.
4 years ago I had zero. In fact, I had no social presence at
Oh,
all. Yeah. And the way it started out is, look, mergers can make for cranky people. They're tough, right? And so at one point, the new boss is coming in. He's talking to his people, and it was a tough day. Mergers are tough. And so my team and I are sitting around. I took everybody out for a happy hour. People are cranky, and they go, Steve, you need to do something to rally people around. Now, rally people around the topic, right? Rally people around getting this all done. And just so happened at that point, they suggested, why don't you use LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or whatever was out there? And I had never done that before. And so I told them, never done that before. They said, come on, you're everywhere. People know you. You need a tagline. And so those of you that follow me have probably caught that best team ever tagline. And they said, you're always saying, bringing the two companies together, you're creating the best team ever. You need hashtag BTE. That's your tagline. Go write something. So I wrote something, and basically through that, I really discovered the power of omni-channel marketing. Basically, that ability to give a consistent message internally to rally people around, and externally to let people know what we're about. So I would say what I learned over the last and most recent is the power of omni-channel marketing, how these platforms that you just talked about are reaching people and helping guide them along a sales journey, a
Mm.
culture journey, a journey in general. So
Yeah.
if that,
What's some new tech that you like whether it be AI or just something that you got. Like I just ran into Delphi.ai, which is like a digital twin of me. It's kind of
mhm.
cool. I don't have any like money inside that company or not, but I'm like, hey, someone could ask me, digital twin, anything they want 24/7 a day, and that'd be kind of a cool thing to be able to do that. And then if I was charging for my time, digital twin Mike gets $100 an hour. Real Michael gets $500 an hour. I haven't done that yet, but for someone like yourself who has built a very high-ranking career, that might be something that might could work. But if you ran into anything that you're like, wow, I really love using that piece of tech.
Yeah, I want to be careful because we have a lot of vendors on our line card. I love them all. So
Yeah,
all my vendors that might be listening to this, I love all you guys.
yeah,
Um, how about I'll give you a segment I'm really interested in all of a
yeah.
sudden.
That'd be
I've been
better.
studying.
Yeah,
Okay. So um, as I talked to you about, I'm a seller, and this is my first ever sales job. And so through that time of 35 years, I've really looked at, developed, and thought about the whole sales process, right? I'm really interested in all these go-to-market AI tools, these ISVs that are out there. People talk about how they're accelerating the sales process, how they're working to basically drive better sales experience for the client and better salespeople. So I've really been fascinated by all the go-to-market AI ISVs out there that are driving a better sales outcome for the seller. Um, it basically drives faster and quicker return on investment when you invest in headcount. It basically makes people sharper in terms of their engagement with clients. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I think all those things are positive. It drives a better customer experience. So if you had to ask me one area that I'm really excited about is studying all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I will tell you this, I'll tell you a story. So I was just at a conference. I was sitting down with Everett from Clay, and we're talking about stuff and kind of talking about the same thing, this whole go-to-market AI ISV space. And he goes, "Oh yeah, Steve, you were an early adopter. Early adopter, that was 4 years ago. Think about that ramp up to now." So,
Yeah,
anyways, how's that? That would be what I'm just fascinated by all of a sudden.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So, I guess where do you see yourself in the next 15 years? Are you retired in 15 years, or like what's your dream place to end up your not your career, but also just kind of a place to relax? Is it staying in where you live now? Is it going across the world, or have you visited anything anywhere really like your favorite place in the world to go visit?
Well, as you know, I'm a road warrior, Michael. So I've seen I think my daughter and I talked about it. She had one of those maps that you put the quarters in, and I've only been not to like 4 states in the United States. So
Hmm.
I've seen most of the United States. I love every place for a different reason. Um, One of my favorite places to visit has been I love going to Spain. I love going to Japan. I've enjoyed those trips massively.
Hmm.
But if you're asking me for when I expire, my retirement date,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know when it stops being fun. In terms of what I want to be doing 15 years from now, to be still active enough to, how about this? I've always wanted to visit the Acropolis. I want to be strong enough to be able to walk to the Acropolis. So
Where's that at?
in Greece. So
Really?
basically, you walk that temple in Greece, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been fascinated by the ancient culture,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'd love to see that area. But 15 years from now, man, I hope to be still having as much fun as I'm having now. So
What's one sales movie that really affected your sales life?
one sales move. Wow. Wow, that's
I never asked this one on here, so
um, a lot of times I tell stories on my posts and some of the talks I give about things that just kind of occur, and then I relate it back to a best team ever trait, what I think drives sales. Um, you know, the I'm gonna tell you a story.
okay.
Okay. So I visited a account of mine with a outside a field rep, a client rep that had just got that role. And so we go to this event. Did he sign up? We didn't do any business with this customer. We decided to write the check and throw the spaghetti against the wall and see if it worked, right? And they had the dine around night. And I go, hey, I'm not gonna mention his name because he would kill me. I go, hey man, what dine around are we doing? And he goes, oh, I didn't sign us up for that. And I go, you didn't sign us up for the dine around? I said, that's the most important event when you sign up for one of these SKOs. You get to
Yeah.
know the executive, you get to know the top reps. Um, and he goes, I just didn't know, Steve. And I go, oh, all right, come to dinner with me.
Yeah.
So I take her out to dinner. What happens is that my competitor walks in with six of the execs of this company that I've never really done business with because they had sponsored a dine around. So I go, hey man, let me teach you a lesson about branding. So I said, pulled the waiter over. I pointed at 6 or 7 items. I said, see these appetizers, send them over that table over there. Appetizers start dropping. They're looking up. They're going, what's going on? Waiter points over at me. That whole table gets up, walks over, starts talking to us and go, what's going on? And I said, hey, we just had these appetizers. They were so tasty. I thought you'd love them. They sat down at the table with us. And oh, by the way, that competitor that originally sponsored that dine around, she ended up working for me. So lesson in branding. That was one of my funnest sales moves. How's that?
Oh God.
Would you do that? How about we turn it around? What's your favorite sales
I
move,
think I'd
Mike?
have to beat you up if you did that to me.
I've seen you. You're a big guy. I think I'd run.
I mean, she got outclassed. That's for sure. I even heard of dine around. So what is a dine around? Is that just taking people out, or is it kind of hosting like a little appetizer thing for people to show up after the conference?
Yeah, it's basically the dinner. You get seated with a couple of top salespeople or top execs. You take them to a fancy dinner.
Yeah,
Um, and look, I love eating, but I love meeting people. And so I think basically building that connection was the best part of. It's the best part why
yeah.
you do
That's
dine
that's
arounds.
that's. I thought I was that one aggressive. That's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's you're a little devil sometimes, aren't you?
I try. I try.
That's good, man. I'm impressed. What I'm doing now is taking the event speakers or people that have the booths because they're looking for, in my case, for money revenue, or look at just are you going to this event and saying, hey, we're going to do a pre-event using a roundtable. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like the dining room, but it's virtual, right? And then we get people interested in talking to each other, and then we say, "Hey, let's meet the first night at this dine around thing, and we'll basically host you guys." So instead of having to like use the app for that, or pass out flyers like the old school, you have that game plan of I got 20 meetings set up, I have a dine around, and I also have another 15 showing up at my booth because you had a game plan using um, intent data, signal data, and event data. So that's kind of how I do it now. But
Yeah.
that's the way you would have to do it back in the day, only because you got to be a hustler. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, and again, I appreciated when you invited me to your roundtable. The thing I loved about your roundtable was you really fostered that. And I mean, as we all know, this is a big factor of successful salespeople. You really fostered authenticity and openness in your roundtable. I mean, people were open. They talked about, common challenges and things that kind of face all of us, revenue sellers and et cetera. And so I thought that was really good. Um, Hey, I know Full Throttle's a business,
Hmm.
but it's also pretty fun what you do. So just wanted
Thanks.
to give you kudos there, man.
I appreciate Steve. I mean, I don't. I used to do like just intros of everybody, and I thought that was way too boring. It's like no one's gonna sit here for 40 intro. This is what you do, and this is why I'm here. It needs to talk about practices, strategies, tactics, tips, and it needs to be authentic. It can't just
Hmm.
be I do this, we. No one wants to hear it. So I learned like that's the lesson learned for me. It's like don't make this into a networking event. Make it into a tips, tactics, and strategies. You guys could sell each other, do what you want in these roundtables, but put the information in the chat. You guys talk on your own. You guys do your own roundtables. But the roundtables I want to produce is educational, right? And I don't want it to be educational where Steve and Michael are talking the whole time and pitching or doing a webinar. I don't think webinars are that great either, to be honest with you, unless they're dying to like look at your software or tech. My whole thing is when you're trying to build a top of funnel, give versus ask. I don't know what you're looking for, so why am I selling? Just pitching a webinar. You have no idea who you're talking to or
Yep.
what their problems are. So there's a lot of people doing sales the wrong way, and to me, you give versus ask. And the whole idea of like why we're doing this podcast is that you showed up to my roundtable because I asked you to be a guest. You showed up to be my podcast because I asked you to be a guest. I'm giving you something and not asking. You're giving me your time. I'm giving you my time. So it's like it's a win-win approach, and that's the only thing in my life that makes sense. Is that win-win approach.
Yep.
So why? Who? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was about to say, I was at an event and they had a speaker that was speaking about um, authenticity in the sales process, right? And like I said, it was a pretty interesting stat. Um, that buyers, when they self-serve and they go do their own research, they actually gravitate toward reviews that are between 4.2 and 4.5 versus
Yeah,
5
never.
stars.
No, because they think it's ridiculous. I heard that too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah. You
anyways,
can't. You can't have your worst ones are going to be someone's 5.0 because it looks like someone seeded it or you paid people to do it. I mean, I don't
yep.
even know what reviews to even count on anymore on half of these things that you look at, like Amazon stuff. Um, I got to go with my gut, but it's like there's companies that do bots and automation, and that's why I don't use automation bots for my stuff. That makes it look like I'm talking to you, but it's AI. My whole thing about the automation is just crack the door open and get the discovery call booked, or the roundtable booked, or the podcast booked. Then you do this. This is called business dating, just like you would if you were dating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I like I said, I like your approach. I know you're focused on the top of the funnel,
Yeah.
right? And
For what I do, but obviously I do the whole thing for me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, all
Yeah.
good, man.
Yeah.
But you were gonna ask me a question. What's up?
No, I just wanted to see what sales philosophy you like the best out of all the years. I mean, I took Miller Hyman and Challenger and all these other ones. Which one? I mean, I never gravitated just to one. I took little pieces and parts. I think that whole dine around idea is something that was probably came from you and from some sort of um, maybe training you had over the years. What's a tip or tactic or strategy that you can share that you learned in sales?
That's a tough question because, like you, I've done it too. I've read Miller Hyman, Challenger,
Yeah,
uh,
Challenger I
yes,
like too. Yeah.
yeah, Challenger, Spice. I mean, and like you, they got to be nuanced because they all make sense, by the way, right? And
Different parts. Yeah.
different parts of it. I think, you know, I think when I think about those sort of sales philosophies, sales rubrics, or whatever you want to call them, there's good things in each of them. And like any, I know you like sports. You know, I like sports too. I'll use poker. I like poker. Okay. And I always think to myself, there's two ways to play poker. There's GTO, which is basically the perfect move and counter move, right? And then there's exploitive, right? And
What's
that's a
GTO?
horrible
What's GTO mean?
game theory optimization. So
Game
just
what?
like game theory optimization.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I'll give you kind of a background on that. In chess, there's a perfect move for every counter move. And so basically a chess game could go on forever if everybody kind of understands that perfect move,
That's
right?
what
That's,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. That's why I do it. It's chess.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's chess. That's right. Um, the second part of it is exploitive. That's the other end of the spectrum where you say like, okay, play the player. What mistakes are you going to make that I could, I hate to say it, but exploit, right? Um, and so when I say that, in order to be able to do that, you have to have a whole range of tools in your tool bag to say, oh, this is Michael's move. This is what I'm going to use. You know, so to your point about sales strategies, going back to that, you got to have that. You got to have enough quivers in your arrow, and you got to be savvy enough to know what arrow to pull out to shoot. Um, and they got to be nuanced to you. They got to be authentic. They got to be real. It's got to be, oh, I'm not following a challenger method because that's what it told me. It's got to be, here's a challenger method because it feels right for me in this situation. Very situational.
Yeah.
Sales are very situational.
Well, Steve, I appreciate your time today. I'm glad that we got to connect on the podcast. Um, how do people get a hold of you? Your email is on the screen here, but who do you want to get a hold of you at this point?
And, anybody that wants to do business with TD SYNNEX, um, I will tell you that I've taken on a role where I'm helping to drive digital adoption of our tools out there. So TD SYNNEX has great platforms. And it's not just e-com platforms, it's platforms around enablement of the business, it's platforms to help you do everything from marketing as a service all the way to basically learning. And we have a suite of services that actually meet you where you live. So basically you can start accessing our applications within things such as Teams or Zooms or et cetera, wherever you live without having to swivel chair.
Mhm.
Um, so if you want to talk about that, reach out to me at steve.jow@tdsynnex.com. We got a great team to help you with that. Um, and man, I appreciate you, Michael. I love being part of Full Throttle Leads here. I love talking to you because I admire you as a salesperson also.
All
So
right, thanks, brother. I admire you too. Thanks for your time.
appreciate it.